Order. We learned W at the end of the class, but it's good to be here. I want to start out by thanking Wood Sanders. You've done a really good job in LD 28. You followed faithfully behind the excellent job that Moher Sigma did when she was. Did you tell them that you were the chair of LD 28? Anyway, she was, and she did a darn good job. I'm really fortunate too. I was telling someone in the audience, like I tell my kids when they complain of all the options they have in college, and I say, well, the good news is you have a lot of options. And I'm privileged, I think, to be with Steve and Ted and Tim and Moher. And I know Steve's going to get one vote. I think I know who the other vote's going to be for. But you guys are going to have a real tough choice, I think. And Steve is going to have my other vote because he and Dave both have done an excellent job in representing LD 28, and they deserve a tremendous amount of gratitude for what they've done. I was at the announcement that Steve mentioned for the light rail system, and I remember several years ago Steve's effort to get light rail and $63 million on, I think it was Thursday afternoon, by the old depot, and that's just a really tremendous accomplishment. A dream that came true thanks to so many of you. I served in the state legislature back when LD 28 was District 13. Some of you may remember Sister Claire Dunn, Josephine Cawthorn, and those were really incredible days, and the stories that you hear about the legislature today, people like Russell Pierce and others remind me of what it was like back then with people like Jim Skelly. And someone named Jim Cooper, who was the chair of the Agriculture Committee in the House when I served there. 1975, yes, I'm 62, I'm the oldest of the group, we were still debating the Equal Rights Amendment. Arizona in 1975 had a Democratic governor, Raul Castro, the Senate was Democratic, and the nation needed 5 more states to ratify, and it would have become an amendment to the Constitution of the United States. So we thought we had a real chance. This guy, Jim Cooper, reminds me of some of these other people that have been mentioned. He called the Equal Rights Amendment Satan's plan for hell on earth. That's a quote, unquote. So, not only do I want to thank David and Steve, we're going to return Steve. I hope I go back with him, work with him, and fight with him on behalf of all of you. He's also done, and Ted Brzezelski has also, a really excellent job. The Friends of Farley newsletter and the blog that Ted mentioned. I'm absolutely convinced that we get more political information off those 2 services than we do off the local media in southern Arizona. So there's a tremendous amount of gratitude. What we're facing, you know it, you heard it, you're a witness. It's been going on for a while. Hillary was right. There's a right-wing agenda in this nation. And in the legislature, there's an ideological extremism that embraces the worst in human nature. The Republican Party, the domination of the legislature reminds me of them being like the party of nihilism. And those of you who may need a refresher on the definition of nihilism, it's a doctrine, according to Webster's, or a belief that perceived conditions in the social or political organization require their destruction for its own sake, independent of any constructive program or possibility. Let's review some of these examples of nihilism. You've heard of them, a few others. When I was thinking over the last several months whether I should run, the thing that really stood out and the thing that finally convinced me was education. Arizona is 49th in per student funding. The cost per student funding in Arizona varies. According to some figures are $7,112 per student. The Goldwater Institute in Phoenix, which is a conservative think tank, puts the figure at $9,700 per student. Do you know what the funding per prisoner in this state is?
It's $30,000.
Try $40,000 just for housing. That doesn't include health care, operations, security, and administration. We have over 41,000 inmates in Arizona. Times $40,000 just for the housing portion, that's $1.6 billion. That was a big push in making me decide to run for the legislature. I I met with Mark Stegeman. I see him in the audience. I don't know if you've been recognized, but you need to be recognized because you're turning TUSD around, you and your colleagues. 2 years ago, no, it's not. We owe you a tremendous debt of gratitude. And when you and I met 2 years ago, and I was, some people approached me about running for TUSD, I said, you know, the problem is up there. See, and Paula, as you well know, here's a party of nihilism that says we believe in local control, and what do? Like they did with City Council, they say, we know what's better for TUSD and Sunnyside and Vail and Catalina Foothills. We're going to not let you do what you want to do and what you need to do to educate kids. And we have the third highest high school dropout rate in the nation. We have a tax on teachers and negotiating rights of teachers, exemplified by House Bill 2395, introduced by Representative Hendricks, not allowing payroll deductions for dues, and this applies to teachers only, no other union. Cuts on universities, $100 million, 23% in the last 2 years. 31% tuition increases, a tax on tenure, research and development. Research and development is what makes this nation thrive also. Our technological edge, particularly in aviation and aeroscience sciences, is being greatly diminished, and we're facing a lot of competition from China. The U of A Aerospace Sciences School has almost half of its body foreign students from China. They're working on propulsion, alternative propulsion systems, new rocket technology, and modern aviation, while we are barely keeping pace. The attacks on the public school system, you've heard it here, I don't have to go into it. Cuts, $55 million diverted from the state general fund to private schools. Deductions for private schools versus deductions for public schools. We're stuck at the $200 level. They're trying to increase it. I don't know what the latest level is to, how much? $1,500 if you give a contribution to a private school. The tax on GED, Ted mentioned that. He was there with me. 800,000 adults in Arizona do not have a high school credential. 20% of all high school diplomas issued in 2008 were GE diplomas. This is what jobs are all about. This affects the economy. We have a tax structure that is highly inefficient, highly inequitable. And the history has been going on there for years and years and years, historically moving away from corporate income tax to property taxes, which influences you and I, middle and lower incomes. This hinders growth. We don't pay attention to solar, and we should. Gabby Giffords knows this. She's working on it. When I was in Germany earlier this last year, I saw solar panel after solar panel after solar panel on roofs in Germany, which has clouds, I don't know how much time of the year. We've lost 278,000 jobs in Arizona in the last year and a half. More nihilism, wait 6 months for divorce. Victims of domestic violence that lived in hell, the state legislature is telling these people to have to wait longer. If you're at a Safeway checkout counter and Frank Antonori has his way, you have to report the person that's checking in with food stamps because they dare to buy beer or chocolate for themselves. The Boy Scout and Girl Scout issue, you heard Steve mention that, where extremism embraces sexism. You've heard Captain Mel, Joe Arpaio, the sheriff, Russell Pierce, Mr. Don't Make Frank Mad Antonori, mandatory sentencing. Reproductive rights are being attacked over and over, and they have been since I've been there. And they continue to be under assault. 31 legislators signed an oath to Grover Norquist, the nihilist in chief of the nation, to not pass any taxes or do what's right for the state. I was a political science professor at Pima. I know how unprepared kids are. My 2 sons graduated from MIT and Stanford. I understand the importance of education to a tremendous degree, as all of you do. I was in Afghanistan in September, and I was really relieved to see, I went after reading 3 Cups of Tea by Greg Mortensen about building schools for girls in Pakistan and Afghanistan. And finally, I had photographs, I wrote an article, had some pictures regarding women, girls going back to school, which was a really tremendous thing, and I had a lot more to say, but that's it. Thank you very much for your time.